Hello and welcome to Nursing 11 from Merritt College. This is Law and Ethics and this is our second video. I wanted to say that we had a really good session with the first meeting at the school. We covered a lot of grounds in a short period of time. I wanted to just kind of review some of the things that we spoke about. We discussed the American Nurses Association website and how important it is to understand how they cover the scope of practice, law and ethics. They have a lot of good articles on there for you to read, and two you were actually assigned to read. One was applying the ethics of care to your practice, and then also ethical challenges in the era of healthcare reform. Both of those articles are by Vicki Latchman, PhD, and they are really relevant because they address issues that are prevalent and current to the practice of nursing. So we talked about the value system and some of the core values that you're going to be responsible for knowing. We covered autonomy, a person's rights to make decision and have informed being given informed background information about treatment care so they can make good choices. We spoke about beneficence, and that's to basically do good for people, to have the best interest of people at heart when you set out to do procedures or to interact with them. We talked about non-malfeasance, which is to do no harm. We spoke about fairness, which is justice. We spoke about doing the right thing, fidelity, and also we spoke about veracity, which is honesty. So all these are at the core of nursing, and as nurses we strive to do this with each interaction that we have with our patients. So with the articles that you were to read, you were supposed to read Applying the Ethics of Care to Your Nursing Profession. It actually spoke about Dr. Jean Watson's caring theory, and how that theory has three major elements: curative factors, transpersonal, caring relationship, and caring occasion, caring moment. So with the curative factors, you develop and sustain relationships. You want to be present and supportive in your relationships with your patient and try to exude positive feelings. Also in the article, it did discuss some other different theories from different people, such as Gassman and Little. They spoke more about working in the moment to decide what you can do for the patient at the current time frame. Other theorists like Gilligan theory of ethics of caring, moving from theory from a self-focus into an interconnected focus with your patients to collaborate more with them on what their needs are. Toronto has worked on an obligation-based ethics. What obligation do I have to this person that I'm caring for? So overall, care ethics stems from the idea that care is basic to human existence, and it helps us to actually use this as a framework for our relationships. So caring ethics deals a lot with your relationships with people, how you formulate them, how you work together with your patient to have a bonding so that you work together basically as a team. Also, with your caring ethics, there are 4 dimensions of care that suggest there's a demand for more than just good interaction. There is a practice of combining activities, attitudes, and knowledge for the situation, and moving toward care as a commitment to look at it as a reciprocal practice, as I mentioned, to have a bonding with your patient. So it's a give and take. You are expected to provide good service, and in return, hopefully the person gives you an okay to go ahead and proceed with those recommendations for care. So it's a give and take. You're giving something and expecting something from them in concern, which hopefully is acceptance of your knowledge and expertise and allowing you to provide care based on their condition. Ethical challenges in the era of healthcare reform. There is the Patient Protection and the Affordability Care Act, which offers some new options for consumers to obtain access to health care. There's now health care now for younger people. There's also health care for nonprofit health care insurance that's available. So the whole move is to make health care affordable to people and to also minimize the cost to consumers as much as possible. One of the things we look at is that since 1986, the Emergency Treatment and Labor Act has prohibited hospitals from refusing acute care to any individual who could not afford to pay. What we find is that there's different views on how health care should be disseminated to people. As we probably have heard out in the community, there are people that feel that it's a given right, other people feel that it's something that should be earned, and that everybody should be able to pay for what they want. There are some people still who frown upon indigent people for not having funds to take care of themselves, and that they prey on the healthcare system, draining the system for what other people need. So you'll hear about this give and take, and what we have to concern ourselves with is equitable and fair treatment to everyone, and making sure that people have the best care affordable when they're in the hospital and they're under our care at that time. Excuse me. We look at things like cost, the quality of health care, also what it costs consumers who do pay into their premiums, and you will hear patients complain about this as they come to the hospital. I'm paying for this care, I expect a certain level of care. But the goal is, I think with this article, is to give you a chance to work through some ethical issues that may come up. Some principles of beneficence and non-malfeasance should still be woven into our care regardless of a person's ability to pay. We want to think about whether or not Americans, can continue to allow self-protective practices from different companies, and can we hold them accountable to the standards which we think should be fair across the board. We have a principle of autonomy which we should not abandon for a more moral relationship, so we have to still consider the patient. Also, some of the things that we reviewed kind of briefly ethics and philosophy. We looked at deontology, which it defines as right or wrong. Utilitarianism proposes that the values of things should be determined by their usefulness. There is also a feminist ethics, which says there should be equality across the board between people, and also the ethics of caring, which we just talked about. When we have issues as far as ethical dilemmas, there are a few steps that they want you to understand you're going to be going through. First, you have to determine whether or not you truly have an ethical dilemma. The next thing you should do is make sure that you have all the information possible to make a good judgment as to how to proceed in taking care of this dilemma. You want to gather your team together, whether it's a team of your doctors or nurses on your unit, or with the ethics committee that's at your institution. And then once you do this, you want to clarify values that people may have, judgments, pre-thought ideas on how this should go, put everything out on the table, and then come up with a plan of how this care, or lack thereof, is going to be executed. Come up with some possible options. Come up with a couple of strategies, and then go ahead and let those strategies play out, and then come back together and evaluate whether or not they've been effective. Or if you've made a decision to withhold care, for example, was this in the best interest of the person? Is this what the person would have wanted? Maybe in lieu of, or without an advance directive in place. And those are going to be some sticky issues that you're going to see that will come up. We actually had a patient's family, for example, we had a 102-year-old patient who came in. They thought she was on death's door. She was weak, she wasn't eating, she wasn't talking. They figured it was her time to go, and they wanted us as healthcare providers to withhold food and fluid from her to assist in the death process, and we refused to do that. We said we had an ethical and moral responsibility to still provide care to this lady who came around, got hydrated, perked up, and basically said that she was not ready to die. She understood that her family wanted her to go, but she was not ready. And the family was upset with us, but we stood by our nursing care and practices and did not deviate? And did we have an ethics committee and a discussion around the family's wishes? Yes. But we went along with what would be prudent and reasonable care to provide to this patient. So you're going to be faced with these issues as the time comes. We're going to be talking more and more about ethical concerns and different items which you may encounter. What I want you to understand is that you will have a review of these issues, and we will also be discussing further things that will come through, like your scope of practice, how to look that up in the ANA website, and making sure that you are understanding what your scope and responsibilities are according to the California Code regulations and guidelines. Things like how to make sure that you have the right training for your license, how to make sure that you're practicing within the scope of practice and when to delegate to other people, let's say in the healthcare team, such as your CNAs, and also what it means for you to make sure that you always abide by ethical, fair, and safe practices and give quality care when you're in the healthcare settings. So that's going to be for a future discussion, but for right now, just have a good review of your core values, a good review of understanding how the Nurse Practice Act stems from statutes related to your legislative body for your Constitution, understanding what different words mean in the context of your care, such as malfeasance, non-malfeasance, or veracity, if you're giving different scenarios, how to distinguish one from the other, and what your responsibility is. So I hope this has been helpful as a review, and we'll have more videos as time goes by. So thank you, and I look forward to the next video with you.